The Mamoní Valley is a pretty remarkable place, biodiversity-wise. I really hope to see the Mamoní Valley Preserve establish an example for other protected areas around the world to follow. I'm Ben Goulet-Scott. I'm a scientist and educator. I work at Harvard University, and I also sit on the board of directors for the Mamoní Valley Preserve. So before working at Harvard, I was a graduate student here. So I did my PhD at Harvard in biology. I studied plants and I studied evolution. And what really excited me, what really drove my interest in research, is a fascination with biodiversity and really trying to understand how it came to be that we live on such a diverse planet. So my thesis was on evolutionary history and natural selection in the Phlox pilosa clade. So this one group of phlox species that lives in the southeastern United States. And for my dissertation research, I did a combination of fieldwork, collecting plants from wild populations across their range. I brought those plants back to the lab. I did genetic sequencing, genomic analyses, the computational work that's associated with that. And I also brought plants back into the field, planted them into experimental gardens, and measured their fitness and how they competed with one another over time in their natural habitat. Yeah, so the Mamoní Valley is a pretty remarkable place, biodiversity-wise. And it sits at the narrowest point in the Isthmus of Panama. So that's the narrowest point where the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans are closest to one another, from the Tierra del Fuego up to Alaska and Canada, right? So it's this very narrow and fragile biological corridor for many species that travel across Central America or from South America to North America. And it harbors that sort of interchange of biodiversity that evolved in South America and North America that sort of had met there when Panama arose a few million years ago. As a scientist and educator, I really see two major goals for research in the preserve. The first is to help us better inform conservation decisions to protect this incredible jewel of ecosystems and biodiversity. And the second goal is to really set an example for the rest of the world on how a protected area can engage and empower local scientists and really propel the careers of young researchers wherever they're located. Yeah, so before serving on the board of directors, I recognized a need for careful and thorough inventories of the biodiversity that exists in the preserve. And so I organized a series of expeditions. We ran 3 of these over a 4-year span to document biodiversity within the preserve. And the way these ran was I would gather a group of undergraduate and graduate students from the US and Panama who had expertise in a certain taxonomic area, say insects or reptiles and amphibians, and would bring that team down to the preserve, and we would spend a week of intensive fieldwork, documenting, really carefully with photography, taking our measurements of individuals, making sure we were really confident about species ID, so that we were developing and adding to, over time, a comprehensive list of the species that live within the protected area. Yeah, so one of the things that was really important to me in planning these expeditions, and is really important to me moving forward thinking about research that happens within the Mamoní Valley, is engaging and empowering local Panamanian researchers. So the best example of this from our expeditions was we had 3 students who were at the time undergraduates at the University of Panama, which is just a couple hours away from the preserve, and they were experts on ferns and lycophytes. And so we had them as part of our team for the expedition where we were documenting fern diversity in the preserve. And they were some of the best field biologists I've ever gotten to work with, and they really had that local knowledge that enhanced what we were able to accomplish in a week. So in 1 week on that expedition, we documented over 150 different species of fern living inside the Mamoní Valley Preserve, which is totally incredible. And those students have now graduated. They've gone on to One of them has started a plant conservation and education nonprofit within Panama. Another student is doing his PhD at University of Texas and actually has joined the board. That's Christian, one of our fellow board members. So, I think that was just a perfect example of connecting with local Panamanians who are super talented and knowledgeable about their local ecosystems, and also have this really deep personal investment in protecting their local ecosystems in Panama. I see research in the Mamoní Valley Preserve as being in the early days of really having a formal vision and being able to execute on that. And so it's an exciting time, and it's a time where we have high aspirations, and those are really focused on making the Mamoní Valley Preserve an incubator for the next generation of young Panamanian scientists. Like I want to be creating these opportunities that help propel the careers of early career biologists in Panama. And some of the ways that we're doing that are we've established a research grant program that will allow young Panamanian scientists to propose their own research ideas that they are excited about executing, and then get funding to execute those in the preserve, right? So it can be hard to find those opportunities as an early career researcher to work on your own ideas. More often you have to join other bigger projects of more established folks, but we want to make that funding available to young scientists to work on their own ideas. We're also working on starting a research fellowship program that would fund an individual to spend an entire year and just allow them to dedicate all of that time to working on research, furthering their career, helping us learn more about diversity in the Mamoní Valley. And the last thing that we're really working on is we want to establish more concrete institutional collaboration with the University of Panama. We have some connections there already. Christian, our fellow board member, is an alum of University of Panama, a really standout sort of rising star student, and he still has strong connections to science departments there. And we would love to see coursework at University of Panama be able to incorporate field trips to the Mamoní Valley, and on those field trips be collecting data that helps inform our conservation decision making as a board of directors. So when I think about research in the Mamoní Valley and what our goal is as a board of directors for developing research, it's not just about the plants and animals. It's not just about the birds, the snakes, the ferns. It's also about the humans, right, who live as our neighbors in the valley. How do we make conservation decisions that are best not only for non-human life, but for the human communities that live there as well? And that extends to the young researchers, right? Like, research ideally should serve both humans and the rest of life that's living in the valley. We can do that by supporting the careers of young scientists who are starting their careers in Panama. And we can do that by developing conservation solutions, land management solutions that serve both human communities in the valley as well as the non-human life, the incredible biodiversity that lives there.